Deadheading, everybody.
Hey everybody.
Today we wanted to do a video and talk about our 4-year journey with Panther. First, we want to start off the video by saying this is a video of our experience with Panther, what we dealt with, how we handled things, how things were handled with us. It is in by no means any kind of a bashing video or anything like that. We just want to share our experience in the hopes that it may help some other folks maybe in their decision process.
Share some of the warts that caused us to want to switch carriers.
And not just the warts. We'll talk about some good stuff too that we experienced with Panther.
When we first started out in expediting, our number one goal was to do government freight. That we knew that was where we were going to make more money. That was our number one goal. That was the first thing we did. As soon as we got hired on, we started the process application to be able to do the government freight. It took about a year to do, and within that year, all we did was general freight, and we did some Canada stuff. The Canada stuff we really didn't like. It was.
We did it because we wanted to make the extra money.
We wanted to make the extra money. We knew in expediting we needed to be able to do as many type of runs as possible, and doing the Canada stuff was one way to be able to do that.
Right.
That was how we set ourselves apart from other expediters out there that might be sitting in the same truck stop as we are, waiting for that next load. Canada load comes up, we got it.
Yeah,
So
before we ever even started, we got our passports and our hazmat endorsements. So we had that right from the get-go.
Right. The whole reason, when we wanted to get the government, to be able to do the government loads, was when we first started, our rate was $1.30 a mile. Anytime you did one of the government loads, you made $1.60 a mile. So that was 30 cents more per mile you made on those type of loads. And oh my gosh, yeah, that was what we wanted to do. And after it took about a year for us to get our clearance, and we started doing those loads. We started making that $1.60 mile on a lot of loads. It ended up being
our best year.
That was a really good year.
Our second year with.
And the government freight was a big part of what we did. It was over 75, probably 85% of the loads that we did. So that extra 30 cents per mile was a big thing for us. That really helped us make some really good money. Towards the end of our first year of running the government freight, Panther decided to change it up.
Change the contract rates.
Change the contract rates. They weren't going to pay us $1.60 on the government loads no more. And they told us it was because they're going to lower the rates that they're going to be bidding.
To get more loads, to be more competitive.
They would be able to get more loads for us. So even though we'd be running for a lower rate, we'd be getting more loads, and it would make up for it.
But on the flip side of that, they also raised our base rate, I guess. What is that called?
Well, they raised our base rate. They raised us up to $1.35 on regular miles, plus 8 cents because we had did the government load. So our base rate was $1.43 a mile. So basically, they raised our general freight loads up 13 cents. On the government loads, we were getting 17 cents a mile less. Now that was really frustrating for us. That was the whole reason we got into doing expediting, is because we wanted to do those loads and make that extra money, yet they were cutting our rate by 17 cents a mile. And one thing that really made us upset about that was they lowered all their government team rates and then gave everybody else raises up from $1.30 to $1.35. So now we don't mind. We're not mad because other people got higher rates. We were mad because they lowered our rates and then raised everybody else's rates. And they used the excuse that, but we're going to be getting you more loads, this and that. And our owner had crunched the numbers. As long as we ran 80% of government freight, it would balance out. As long as we stayed above 80%, it all balanced out, and we'd still be making about the same as we were when we got $1.60 on government and then $1.30 on regular. A lot of people quit Panther when they changed that. I know a lot of people jumped ship. They were not happy with it, rightfully so. We probably would have if we owned our own truck at that time also, you know. We even talked to our owner at that time. Well, what do you think about a move to Landstar? I hear they're paying better over there. And we looked into it. He did some research. We met up with drivers and talked to them and asked, and we were kind of getting conflicting stories between what we were hearing and he was hearing. So we just decided to stick it out. It was what it was. You know, there wasn't nothing we could do about it really, other than just to keep moving forward. After about a year of doing that, they did end up giving us 10 cents more a mile on the government loads. So they did end up raising our government rate. Whenever we did a government load, we made $1.53 a mile. And then whenever we did general freight loads, we made $1.43 a mile. Now that kind of rate setup made our rate higher than the truck sitting next to us in Laredo waiting on a load.
That didn't have government.
That didn't have a government clearance. They were getting $1.35. We got $1.43. So if a load popped up in Laredo and they had two drivers to pick from, which one are they going to make more money on? They would make more money giving it to the guy that they only have to pay $1.35 on. Now, it really didn't affect us that much starting. You know, when they were first doing that, it didn't affect us that much. They had a lot of business. We were staying busy. Here and there, we noticed we would get skipped over on loads. The only thing we can think of was that our rate was higher. You know, but nobody ever would tell us definitively that. Nobody would ever tell us, no, that wasn't the case. So for us, we just had to believe that was why we were getting skipped over. I mean, it just makes sense. And I know they're a company out there trying to make money, but their whole structure of how they paid, it didn't work out for us with what we were doing. We were happy to get that extra 10 cents a mile, you know, $1.53 on all the government loads. It was decent. I honestly think the whole entire time we should have been making way more.
That's the thing with the government. When we're talking about the government, the freight that we haul with that department it takes a lot more work. There's a lot more steps you have to do. There's a lot more safety things that you have to do. It's just more work all around. It should be paid accordingly to the job you're doing.
We ran with that. $1.53 for the government, $1.43 on general freight. It didn't affect us that much. We were always staying busy. A lot of times we would get loads over other drivers because we had our hazmat and they didn't. You know, that was still working out to our benefit.
And I think a lot of it is we were happy with our owner. If we didn't have as good of owner as we did, I think we would have jumped ship too at that point. But
we had a really good owner.
That was one of the first things that kind of started going awry with Panther. The second thing was they changed how they did tolls. Now, as independent contractors, they don't have to pay or reimburse you tolls. That is not something they do, because once they start doing that, then you're considered a company driver. Well, we're not company drivers, we're independent contractors. So when we first started with Panther, and what they did for a very long time is when we went through tolls, we would send in our receipts from the toll booths and they would reimburse, or if you had a toll tag, you would send them in that. And Panther would reimburse you those tolls that you actually drove, whether even for deadhead and loaded miles. They would reimburse for those tolls. Yeah. As long as that was something you had negotiated when you accepted the load.
Right.
They did have to put that they would pay tolls. So around the time when they started changing rates, they changed the way they did tolls as well, which upset a lot of people. What they started doing is you would still have to get them to okay tolls, but they have a system that they go by that basically estimates the tolls of, I guess, the most common route you would be taking from point A to point B, and that's what they would reimburse you on tolls. And it seemed to be it was always the discounted rate. A lot of these places, you know, if you have an Easy Pass or a toll tag, you get a discounted rate versus just paying cash. So a lot of people were upset about that because they weren't getting reimbursed what they were actually paying for tolls. You say we paid $50 in tolls, they may have only been reimbursing us $28 in tolls because that's what the system told them we would be paying.
Right.
Which, you know, that didn't really upset us one way or the other because we always paid our tolls. They would reimburse us. We write them off. Tolls you can write off at the end of the year. Panther never technically reimbursed tolls because when they paid us for the tolls, whether it was the old way or the new way, they would add that money in as income on our 1099. So they're not really reimbursing you. They're actually putting it as income on your 1099. So that was another thing that changed. That, again, that didn't really upset us a lot, but it did upset a lot of drivers.
What really upset a lot of people was they were making this change with the premise that it was going to be better for us. You know, they were doing this to help make our jobs easier.
Right.
They were saying, oh, it's gonna make it easier for you all. You don't have to send in your toll receipts anymore. We're gonna reimburse you, you know.
But the problem was, and this came across a lot. Let's say you're up in the New York City area and they ask you to deadhead down to, let's say, DC to pick up a load. It's a really good load, you know, going down to Laredo or something, 1,800 miles. The problem was they didn't pay tolls on deadhead. So you were going to be deadheading from New York all the way down to DC area. All those tolls would not be reimbursed, you know. So it was like, while as before, that would be something that would get reimbursed. And for us, it wasn't such a big deal. Either way, we had to write off the tolls. But there's a lot of drivers out there that they didn't have $100, $75, $65 just sitting around to pay tolls and not get that money back, you know?
The thing with that too is technically in the contract with Panther, it says they do not reimburse tolls.
Yeah.
It is in the contract. So, I mean, I can't fault them for that because it is in the contract that they do not pay tolls.
A lot of companies don't reimburse at all.
Because then you're considered, start crossing that line of independent contractor and company driver.
Right.
And that's why they do that.
But we don't want this to be all about what we dislike, things that are changing and stuff. Those were just some warts that, you know, changes in the company policy that
started getting our wheels turning about maybe we need to start thinking about making a move.
Right. It did.
Yeah.
Some good things about Panther.
Their driver reward program. I mean, it's probably not the greatest reward program.
It is hard to get.
It's hard to get. You know, they've got. I did a whole video on rewards, driver rewards. I'll link it above here if you want to check it out. But that's a really good thing. You know, it gives the drivers an opportunity to make some extra money, and you know, for what you're already doing. So that's a positive thing.
You definitely got to stay out a long time. The more you stay out, because like for us, we had to make 65,000 miles in a 6-month period to reach gold status. Which was the best reward you could get, you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you had to make 51,000 miles to get bronze status, which still wasn't too bad, you know. Get a nice little bonus for it, but
yeah. So that was a positive thing.
Panther has the business. They have a very large customer base.
They do.
And for the most part, they can keep you busy. Now, when I say busy, it doesn't mean you're not going to sit a day or two in between loads, but you're going to get some decent loads, you know. They do have the business to keep you busy as long as they're not oversaturated on drivers at the time.
And I will say, up until this last year, we stayed busy. The first year
we were very pleased with the money we made.
The first year was rocky. We didn't have our clearance. The second and third year were our best years, I think. Second year really was a good year.
I attributed that mostly to our hard work, though.
Yeah, I do too. But
because
they did keep us rolling.
We stayed out. We stayed out 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
We did what we had to get more runs in, more miles, more.
Yeah, I always have to laugh when I hear drivers see posts about, well, I'm just not getting no money, I'm not making no money, but yet those are the drivers that are going home every 3 weeks and taking off a week, or, you know, they want to go home every weekend, or, you know, you've got to stay out to make the money. That's just how it is. Not that that doesn't work for some people, and I'm not saying it doesn't, because there are a lot of people that do it, but those people have been out here for a long time and know what they're doing, and they're established. But yeah, I think they have the business, like Jason said. You know, they had the merger with ArcBest a couple of years back, which I think helped, because we did start getting and seeing a lot more ArcBest loads at that time.
Not a lot,
but we were seeing, I think there's more now, but yeah, we did about, 2 years ago, I think it was, and I may be wrong on that date, but that's about, I think, when that happened, right?
Yeah.
Another thing we didn't really understand is Panther did not allow us to have any off-duty drive time.
Apparently, before we even started, people were abusing it or something, and they didn't allow it. That's one thing we're allowed at Landstar.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing I don't like about that is there was older drivers that still had it, but the newer drivers couldn't have it. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the people that actually did have it, they only got like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what off-duty drive time is basically you're allowed to drive the truck to go pick up some groceries from the grocery store, come back to the truck stop, and not have to start your clock.
Yeah.
Say you're sitting over the weekend doing a 34-hour reset to reset your clock, but you need some groceries in your truck. You've been running all that week. You didn't have time to stop at the grocery store. Now you're sitting for your 34. You need to go get groceries. You can't, because you're not allowed to do any off-duty drive time. So that was one thing.
And we might talk about that and do a kind of in another video about that, because it's going to be kind of a new thing for us too, because like we've never had it. The 4 years we've been with Panther, we never had that opportunity to use that or do that. So we might talk about that in another video. I will say, you know, we never really had any family emergencies that we needed to get home really quickly and you know, have to deal with Panther and that. But I do know, we know some people that did have some family emergencies while we were there, and from what we were told and heard, Panther really did put the effort to get them home when they needed to be home, and do a lot of things.
If they were on a load already, you know, try to find a driver that can recover that load from that driver so they can get home to their family. And and there was a lot of good dispatchers there that we did talk with. We really loved the government team dispatchers. You know, it was a small group of people that we talked to most of the time. My thing with dispatchers is I understand they're under a lot of stress to get loads covered. There was a lot of times where it went way too far. It just went way too far with the way they would talk to us, the kind of threats, the kind of power they thought they had over us.
And this could be, and I mean, this isn't probably just Panther. I mean, could be a lot of carriers. But
towards the end there, I really did not feel like we were working towards the same goal of servicing customers. I felt it was a battle between us and Panther. How cheap could they get us to run, or how much bonus could we get out of them? It really just seemed like a battle between us and the dispatchers for that. And you know, a lot of drivers out there are asking too much bonus, and then a lot of dispatchers aren't understanding what bonus is really needed to make a run worthy for a driver. You know, and we're going to do a video on that again, kind of elaborating when to ask for money and how much to ask for. That's a big part. You both got to stay profitable. We're not out here to run for peanuts.
Right.
Panther's not in the business of giving jobs out for free. Right. You know, they're out there to make $1 on these loads too. You know, so
to kind of fast forward, I guess, let's say right before we bought our truck, or the last year, let's just say the last year we were with Panther, You know, we started noticing some changes even before we decided to buy our truck, but we were like, we're going to go ahead. It's time to buy our truck. We need to do it. The time is now. So when we did purchase our truck, or when we were going to purchase or in the process of purchasing our truck, we were actually going to make the switch then. We were just going to take the new truck, head straight to Landstar, but we kind of took a step back and said, you know, we're comfortable here. We know the system. Let's stay here, get some money built up before we make that switch. Because like we've said before, it costs a lot of money to switch carriers. It's not just, oh, I'll quit here and go here, like quit McDonald's and go to Burger King and we're all good. No, it's a lot of money to do it for us and the carriers. So we said, let's stick it out with Panther. So that's what we did. And honestly, I feel like we started seeing a big change the first of this year. Like I said, ArcBest bought out, whatever you want to say, with Panther about 2 years ago, but they really didn't start making the full switch over until the beginning of this year.
Beginning of this year, ArcBest announced some restructuring. Usually, my understanding of a restructuring is they need to raise their profits.
Yeah.
How can they raise their profits?
Yeah. Now, that's when we kind of started seeing and sensing a lot of changes going on. Now, we're not up there. We don't know what's happening. We just see what's out on the road by talking to other drivers, reading posts on Facebook, following other people.
Yeah.
That seemed to be what was going on a lot across the board from Panther drivers. We were hearing kind of the same thing.
It wasn't just us getting skipped over on loads. It wasn't just
a lot of people sitting.
Us having problems with dispatchers.
Yeah.
It wasn't just us. You know, it was. Everybody was having these problems, and everybody was disgruntled. They were having the same complaints, you know, same issues. And
we were starting to notice with the government freight. Right before we left, we hadn't had a government load in a month.
Over a month.
A month.
And that was 80% of our jobs.
Yeah. And that's where we make the most money. So of course we want to do those runs. You know, we're out here to make money and be profitable. We're not out here to just get by. We want to be profitable and make good money. And so
not only were we not getting, we hadn't had a government load in over a month. Most of the loads we were being offered were reduced rates.
Reduced rates, yeah.
They want one of the lowest ones we were offered was $1.05.
Yeah.
They offered us $1.05 from $1.43 and wanted us to take a load for $1.05.
Yeah,
I was beside myself. I was insulted that they would even offer that low of a rate, you know. But I stood my ground. I said, no, I'm not going to run for that. I'm sorry. Then and then it became a back and forth. Well, what will you take it for? And me personally, I was just so upset of that $1.05 offer. I stood my ground. I said, I'm not running it for any less than my contract rate. I want my $1.43.
Yeah.
We ended up getting it at that, but I think it might have pissed somebody off up there that we wouldn't take it for $1.05 or take it lower. And for us, it didn't make sense. We had delivered just the day before, and we had only been sitting there less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't need to take a reduced rate yet.
We were okay sitting another day.
Yeah, I would have sat another day, another 2 days, and waited for something else. I had no problem with that. Another time, we were heading down to Laredo, which was really busy. They didn't have any trucks down there, and they called me and asked me to take that load to California for $1.20. Again, that just didn't make sense for us. I'm on a load right now, heading to Laredo, and you're already calling me with a backup.
Where they're doing 20-some a day.
20-something loads a day, and there's no trucks there. Yeah. Why am I going to take a reduced rate out of there? Don't do that.
Not only that, but then we'd get there to California, and that's where they're trying to reduce rates out too.
Then they're gonna, yeah.
It's just.
Why would I take a load to Northern California out of a really good load area at a reduced rate to a bad area or not as good of area where I'm gonna have to take another reduced rate? It just didn't make sense. And a lot of reduced load rates.
Yeah, we've been seeing that.
Personally, I feel our $1.43 a mile is already a reduced load rate. That's a contracted rate that we signed. Yes, we're going to run for this little bit of less money in order for you to keep us busy. We will take this lower rate. It's a decent, it's all right. We can make it work. $1.43, $1.35, you can make that work. That's what we're signing on as a reduced rate for you to keep us busy. Yeah. Not to have you even lowball us even more.
Right.
That's right then and there. We just decided it's time. It is absolutely time.
Yeah.
This is not working for us no more.
Yeah, and
maybe we outstayed our welcome. We're not perfect drivers, you know. I mean, we make mistakes too. You know, we always strive to be the best we could, but I almost feel we outstayed our welcome there. You know, just wasn't going to work for us anymore. It was time for us to see what other options are out there for us and try to build new business relationships.
And we've told you before, you know, our decision to go to Landstar is based on a lot of years of research, talking to a lot of people, and we didn't make that decision lightly. And you know, we had good times and bad times at Panther. You know, it wasn't all bad, and that's not what we want the video to be about. We just wanted to tell you kind of what we went through.
We're not trying to scare you guys either.
Not
we
at
just
all.
want to share our experience.
We know people, you know, talking about that too, one thing I did want to kind of mention that we kind of saw is we felt like Panther caters kind of more towards the larger fleet owners, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's their bread and butter. They got 100 trucks on there. Of course they're going to want to cater to them. But that doesn't help the folks that
independent people like us.
Independent people that own their own trucks. I mean, we know a couple that have been there years, and they're going through the same thing right now, and they're talking about making a switch. And they've owned their own truck for many years with Panther. They've been there a long time, and they're getting treated this way. You know, take care of your good drivers.
Those of you still with Panther, make it work.
Yeah.
You can make it work. You know, do what's best for you. You know, what worked for us may not work for you. What works for you may not work for us. So,
right.
Panther ain't.
They're not bad.
This evil carrier.
It was a good stepping stone for us. We learned, and it was a good experience. It really was.
Experience, a good stepping stone.
Absolutely.
We learned a lot there.
Yeah. So we hope sharing some of our ups and downs there helps enlighten y'all if you're thinking about going there, or you're there and maybe you're going through that same thing. It's, you know, this is the close of one chapter for us, the opening of a new one, and hopefully it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. We're excited.
Yeah. And we hope your guys' story goes just as good as ours.
Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing. And until our next video, peace, love, and expediting.
Peace.